All right, there we go. All right, chat. If you haven't seen one of these before, these are the analysis videos that I like to make. We just did one a couple days ago over KPL Week 5. I've done them for Tixik tournaments. I've done them for Krunket tournaments out in Asia. We do this for a ton of different regions and tournaments. I like to do them after tournaments happen. And now that KPL is live and tournaments are happening pretty much on a weekly basis now, it is just a plethora of content that we can take a look at and break down. I find that there's no one really out there right now doing this kind of content to sort of like help keep it educational for incoming members of the competitive community. I kind of want to be that person. I want to help newcomers get a little bit more comfortable with comp and start to improve their own game. And I try to keep the commentary detailed enough that people who are very experienced with comp 2 have enough sort of meat to dive into to improve their own game as well. And so what we're going to be starting with here is one of the, I believe this was the loser's final match between Quackpack and Wasp. Quackpack is a team that we looked at before. This was the team this is one half of the teams that we looked at a few days ago on our analysis with Quackpack versus Vivid Obsidian in the finals. Quackpack as a team consisted of Masui, Logic, Johnny, and Irrational here. And at this moment, they were sent down into the losers bracket of KPL by Vivid Obsidian earlier in this tournament. They battled it back, and the winner of this match is the team that goes on to face Vivid Obsidian again in the grand finals for the final prize. So there is a lot at stake for teams like this. Wasp is a challenger. They were also, I believe, sent down to the losers bracket by Vivid Obsidian as well, I think a step earlier in the tournament. And so these are two teams that faced Vivid Obsidian, lost. Now they're playing each other for a chance at the rematch. This match in particular, and let me flip ourselves over. Hey, wait. Make sure to remember to drop a like and a subscribe down below. I plan on making some more analysis and tutorial vids in the future, and so if you like what you see, it would mean a whole lot if you went and subscribed. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you on the other side. Peace out. This match in particular takes place in Sandstorm. Let me get rid of all that nonsense. This match in particular takes place on Sandstorm. Wave, goodbye, chat. We're going to close down this so it's a little bit easier to see. This particular match takes place on Sandstorm. I believe at this rate, Quackpack took round 1. No, excuse me. Wasp took round 1. Quackpack took... Quackpack took round 1, and this is round 2 of 3 here on Sandstorm. Quackpack took round 1 away from Wasp in pretty dominant fashion. I believe with a lead of over 1,000 points. And so going into this match, there was a lot of Quackpack supporters. I think Quacky himself was actually in chat supporting Quackpack, which feels like insider trading. But here, everyone was expecting Quackpack for a quick sweep to go for the rematch from KPL 5 here at KPL 6. However, this match was significantly more interesting than even myself really was anticipating. To start us off, as I always do, normally in competitive games, comp doesn't exactly matter, the comp that you run. However, when we're talking about the top 1% of this game, the people that are going to be competing in these tournaments at the highest level, compositions start to matter when we're taking a look at how these teams are going to be approaching fights. And so if we take a look at Sandstorm, Sandstorm's very, very unique in the fact that we have a lot of really long sight lines. So if you take a look at the top left and we look at this mini map from the spectating client, a lot of long sight lines around every single big objective on this map, with pretty much the only exception being Sandstorm A. Sandstorm B, short, is honestly a pretty long sight line. Then you have the aptly named long. When we take a look at Sandstorm C, if you're up here ratting by this corner right there, you get a very nice peek over by main, what some people consider to be mid as well. And then D is the king of long-range sightlines, as it is a huge sightline down long. And people can try to come in through market or they can try to come in through elbow, but these are very long sightlines. And so the way that these teams are going to be approaching this is typically when we find ourselves on Sandstorm. If you're looking at a team that likes to change up their comp dependent on the map, here in North America, this is a very semi-auto friendly map. However, now that we're in OCE, semi-auto is actually a class that's not played nearly as often as it is in North America. And so the comps that we're faced with here are a bit different than what you might expect if you are from the US. From Quackpack, we have Johnny on the SMG, Irrational on the FAMAS, Logic on the Revolver, and Masui on the AK. The big threat here, in my opinion, is definitely the AK Revolver threat. Whenever we're going to be approaching a long sightline, the two people to look out for most are going to be Logic on the revolver, and it's going to be Mosui on the AK. These are the two guns that have the best chances of threatening people at long range. Obviously, your FAMAS and SMG are going to be huge contributors as well, but the fall off is less significant on the AK versus the SMG, and the FAMAS, it can sometimes be a struggle to hit those targets at further ranges. And so this entire comp off of Quackpack really just sort of lies on Logic hitting his shots. And if you're going to rely on anyone hitting his shots, Logic's a pretty damn good person to rely on. Logic, as we've said in the last analysis video that we did, Logic is consistently a person that when they do end up on a team that plays Vivid Obsidian, he is consistently a person that gives Vivid Obsidian a whole lot of trouble. And really forces a reaction out of the enemy team. If you let Logic go unchecked, he will absolutely steamroll your entire squad. And so if we take a look at this comp, we see how it's almost built around this revolver. You have your SMG AK core, which are two weapons that work very well together. You need this source of consistent damage, especially when the next two guns in your comp are FAMAS and revolver, two guns that can be rather boom or bust if you're having a bad day. However, looking at this, you have the revolver who can either follow up on kills or set up kills for the rest of the guns in this entire squad, right? The hitting a headshot on the revolver puts the enemy at 2 HP, which allows that AK or SMG to just land a nice foot shot to take away that kill. The FAMAS can take away kills that hit at body length. These are all guns that work exceptionally well with this revolver, and purposefully and they're going to purposefully try to team shot the best they can around that revolver presence. So watch out for that. And then when we're taking a look at Wasp's team, very, very similar, but with one difference. We have It's Who on the FAMAS, Ace in Transit on the SMG, we have Leon on the LMG, and Jailed on the AK. And so the big difference between Quackpack's squad and Wasp's squad is the lack of revolver in replacement for the LMG. Now, what this means for each other, what this means for Wasp is that their squad is significantly more brawly. The SMG and the LMG are two very tanky classes, in my opinion. LMG, it's very obvious to see why they're tanky, whereas on the SMG, it's a little bit more deceptive to see, but SMGs being able to go really fast, jump off of walls, disrupt your sight lines, and then break their hitbox in the air while crouching, lets this class be a little bit more tanky than it normally would be. And so having this LMG in replacement of the revolver means that this squad is going to be trying to take these fights as fast as possible. For Wasp to succeed here, they need to close distance fast, because if you try to take these fights at long distances and try to engage off of long or off of main, then you're just going to allow Logic to absolutely eat you up for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And so this is, but on the flip side of this coin, if you allow Wasp to absolutely dictate the pace of this match, if you allow them to push into you, if you play too passively as Quackpack, they will run over you because that LMG will go unchecked, drawing in aggro, allowing that AK and that SMG and that FAMAS to do the damage that that LMG lacks. And so that's what we're looking at here from a composition point of view. One team wants to take long-range engagements and stay active. One team wants to take close-range engagements and stay mobile. And so keep that in mind as we watch the different interactions these teams are going to have on this site, on these sites coming up, especially as we approach sites B and C. The last thing I want to cover before we get into it is Sandstorm in general. Sandstorm in general is an absolute... It's a crazy map. In my opinion, it is one of the most unique maps in this game for a very, very strange reason. So, whoops, that's not what I meant to do. We'll cut this out of the video. Let's host a game on Sandstorm really quickly. Let me show you why. Thank you for the follow, Shan each other, and Team Crisis. And, oh, come on, man. Sandstorm's the best, and I know you hate it. I'm about to go to war here. So... it all starts right here on Sandstorm A. Sandstorm A, in the grand scheme of things, isn't the most important point on this map. You have two very tight sightlines when it comes to defending this point. You have approaches coming from ramp. You have approaches coming from backyard. Occasionally, if the SMG gets a little crazy, you have approaches coming over the wall from tunnel. But mostly it's going to be from backyard and ramp. A lot of these fights are going to be very flip-floppy. Even good teams will struggle to hold A for a long period of time. Because if you try to gain a lead on A by sitting on the objective, you're putting yourself in objectively bad defensive spots. There's this spot right here in the corner of this box that serves as very nice cover from pushes from ramp, but leaves you completely exposed from pushes from backyard. And if people come from ramp, they can just simply jump on this box and then take a fight from you without even knowing it. The best spots to really sit if you are trying to defend A is offsite right here, defending yourself, protecting yourself from backyard while aiming down ramp. You'll see people take forward possessions up here on this corner box. TDMing and ratting is a lot more of a viable strategy, but you're not going to get a lot of objective pressure off of it. Your lead starts to grow when we start to take a look at B, though. This corner right here is an incredibly defensive bastion. You could take turns swapping off which box you're using for cover to either decide whether you're going to defend from pushes from short or you're going to defend from pushes from long. In addition to that, ratting can be somewhat viable. You can sit over here by tree. You can sit right up here by this hole in the wall right there. You can even have a little bit of a forward position. Sometimes you'll see teams sitting backside D to defend anyone who's trying to push from backyard. But leads are really where you start to see happen here on Sandstorm B, just because the positioning on the site itself is so strong that you don't have to justify getting off site. It's very easy to justify staying on site and winning fights whenever the positioning on site is this good. C is where the issues start to arise. Sandstorm C is what we like to call a wall site. Wall sites in every single map with one exception, and I'll let you guys see if you can't guess what one exception that is. Wall sites in every single map, except for one exception, are the most powerful and important points in the entire game. And anytime you're going to be approaching a competitive map, whether it's Sandstorm, Undergrowth, Site, Industry, Lumber, Bureau, all of those have wall maps. I think except for Lumber. Almost all of those have wall maps, and you have to be able to plan around those wall maps. If you don't have a strategy going into Sandstorm C, you will lose. Easy. There are a couple reasons for this, though. There's a few reasons why Sandstorm C is so strong. Does anyone want to take a guess in chat? Any guessers in chat? Here, we'll pull up chat for this. C is strong because you can spawn back on site. That's a very big one. Very huge one. C is one of the biggest reasons that wall sites in general are strong, because there's almost always a spawn point on it. Very easy to hold and you spawn on it are two of the big ones. There's one reason that's deceptive. Those are two incredibly good reasons, right? If we're talking about the ways to hold Sandstorm, if you want to rat, if you have that lead and you have the ability to rat and TDM a little bit, this position is really strong. This position is really strong. However, the positions on site are arguably even stronger. You can sit right here early to this wall, wait for them to push in and cause what I like to call a 50-50-100. You have a 50-50 chance of, as an attacker, to guess what side the defenders are on. And you have a 100% chance that you're wrong, because chances are they're going to be on both. Oh, alrighty. Back to it, back into it. Functional Wi-Fi. You didn't even get the note if that you're streaming again. It might have been because I ended and went live so soon. But let's go right back into it. Where we left off, we had a lot of really great suggestions. Let me pull them up again. Pulse said C is strong because you can spawn back on point if you win sight. Mommy said it's easy to hold and you spawn on it, which are two very, very good reasons why Sandstorm C is so powerful. There are more that we're going to get into, but those are some of the two biggest ones. Thank you very much, Dread. Thank you very much. That is very nice of you. Welcome to chat. It's nice to see you again. Talking about what makes Sandstorm so special defensively, right? Standing on either side of these walls gives you a really nice advantage when attackers try to push in. Standing behind this box not only gives you a sight line on people who try to push in from elbow, But also, if anyone wants to challenge you from main, they have to push into the walls to do so. And then here in the back corner as well, gives you a little bit more time to react and a little bit more of a forward position. You have this high ground. Everywhere here is on the objective too. And so you can be in an offensive position here and find kills while still getting objective score for your team. All to boot, there's this spawn point right here where if you're not in a prolonged fight, and as long as you just win the fight as the defenders, you can simply just spawn right back here if the fight doesn't take too long, right? And so even if you are an attacker and you kill 3/4 of the defenders on other points, that's a viable way of attacking, because you would be taking away objective points from the other team, right? But on Sandstorm, it's not viable at all because defenders will simply spawn back here after 1 second and start to earn points for their team again. You're just denying 40 points, right? Or 30 points or 20 points, which is nothing in the grand scheme of things, right? However, there's one more reason. There is one more reason why Sandstorm C is so difficult to push into. Does anyone know? Sorry, not difficult to push into. There's one more reason why Sandstorm C is so strong as a point in general. Does anyone think they have an idea? We've talked about how it's easy to defend. We've talked about how when you're winning, you can have ratting positions. And we've talked about how there's a spawn point on the site. Does anyone know the last reason why Sandstorm C is so utterly strong? There's a big crossfire. That's a good idea, right? It kind of goes hand in hand in how you can be offensive. That crossfire standing across both of the walls, setting up that crossfire is huge. Not quite. I'll give you a hint. It has nothing to do with Sandstorm C at all. You can get the D fast. Not quite, but it does have to do with D. It does have to do with D. One of the biggest reasons that Sandstorm C is so utterly strong is because Sandstorm D is so terrible to get to come back on. If you are losing after Sandstorm C, it is so absolutely difficult to start winning again in Sandstorm D. Exactly. Sandstorm D, from a defensive point of view, stacking onto the site is terrible. That does not mean Sandstorm D is a bad defensive site. In fact, I would argue the opposite. However, if you're trying to defend Sandstorm D on the site itself, that is terrible positioning, right? If you're trying to defend Sandstorm D, the only cover you have is sort of hiding right here with some pseudo cover behind this box. You can't even hug this box or else you'd be leaving point. And then there's this that you can defend from pushes from long. But that's it. Other than that, you're standing still on a raised platform with a free sightline from anyone who pushes from long, a free sightline from anyone who pushes from backyard or market or from elbow. Anyone who pushes from tunnel can throw your vision off, right? If you try to get a lead back at Sandstorm D, unless that lead is within 200, it's almost never going to happen. But what Akoda just said right now in chat is the reason why Sandstorm D is so strong from a defensive point of view. Because you can rat. And you can only rat if you're winning. Sandstorm D is a wax seal, is what I like to call it. If you are winning through Sandstorm C, if you're up by 300 points, you can have one person sitting here backside. You can have one person sitting here behind tree. You can have one person sitting here over by boxes. You can have one person sitting up here by market. You can have someone TDMing by ramp, right? If you're in the lead, defending this site is quite literally the easiest thing in the world, because even if you lose, all you have to do is run back. You know the enemy team has to stack onto site. Their positioning is dog shit because of that, and it's a free take, right? Even if you don't retake, all you have to do is peel them off of site, because the only spawn point that's close is this one, and it's very rare that defenders spawn back here. So they're more likely going to spawn over here by long or over here by C, right? Sandstorm D is a wax seal. So whenever you play Sandstorm, you have to be focusing on Sandstorm B and Sandstorm C to try to win your games, because you cannot get a lead on A, and if you try to rely on getting a lead on D, you're already too late. And this is what I want to build up. This is the backbone that I'm trying to build as we go into this WASP Quack Pack game. This is why this match comes so close. Because as you'll see, whereas in the previous round, Quack Pack did a very good job of controlling the pace and winning through B and C. In this map, it's not going to be nearly as strong. And we're actually going to come rather close here at Sandstorm D. But it will be an incredible example of why Sandstorm D is so terrible to try to come back on. So let's get into it. We've already talked about the comps. And so for our very first push right here, it's going to be Wasp pushing in from Cubby. And it's going to look like we're going to have a full backyard push right now. At the moment, we have 2 members of Quack Pack pushing in through Tunnel right here, facing off against 2 members of Wasp. It looks like it's going to be Jailed going to be leading this charge through backyard. However, Quack Pack reads this and initially doesn't touch site at all. As you can see, this is still the old scores from the previous round, so no one's touched site yet. Wasp knows this, and as we can see, 2 members of Quack Pack, Irrational and Johnny, already watching ramp. They're going to know that the timing's already off. They're 2 members of the 2 other members that see the half of the team here in Tunnel are going to call out that it's going to be a full backyard push. And so we're going to quickly see Quack Pack reposition to get a straight sight line. And now we see Johnny changing his sight line as well to immediately start attacking this backyard front, right? A whole lot of trading happening over by Tunnel, right? Logic finding it too. Moswe finding Ace in Transit, with Leon responding by finding Moswe. And so this first push doesn't go well for Wasp, right? There is a bit of a spawn advantage on Sandstorm. The team that typically spawns over here in backside D typically has a pretty strong advantage, as they're a little bit closer and can typically defend the site first. Whereas the team that spawns over here in Cubby typically has to attack the site first. And so we see that advantage showing itself a little bit with that very aggressive push through Tunnel, and Quack Pack having a very nice defense onto site. Great callouts by Quack Pack. Moswe is the IGL for this team. A really great lead, a really great first entrance there. So first fight goes well, but we've already talked about how A is very flip-floppy. The fights on A are never really clear-cut. It's super staggery. And so just like that, Itsu and Jailed come flying on in to retake that site and clean up what was remained of that first fight. You might have blinked and you might have missed it. However, the second fight has already begun. Moswe and Johnny Deere get cleared off of this site, and Irrational and Leon meet each other over by ramp. This is big, right? The huge cornerstone of Wasp's comp is the LMG staying alive. The LMG staying alive is the only thing that sort of anchors Wasp's comp down, right? And so Irrational taking out Leon early bodes really badly for this first defense for Wasp. The LMG is typically what's going to try and draw aggro here on A. It's what's going to try and dictate the pace of the fight, allowing Jailed, Ace, and Who to do the damage. But with that LMG dead, now you just have 3 relatively squishy classes that are going to be alone, with the full team of Quack Pack finally respawning. Irrational is going to push forward. Jailed's going to challenge and get him, but die to Logic's hands because Irrational was able to bring him so low. An incredibly well-organized 1-1 push from ramp and backyard allows Logic to find that kill. It's also going to give away his position here, as he was immediately going to try and turn this corner. Logic very smartly is playing this slow, right? Logic jumping in here is a death sentence, right? He probably knows now, because Irrational probably calls it out, that it's Who is standing right here in this corner. And so denying Who this sightline allows Logic to take a 1v1 versus Ace. All Who has to do, however, is simply jump around and take the fight himself, right? Again, cycling back to yesterday's video, it's all about pace. And even in their small little fights, it's about the pace, and it's how you're dictating the speed of those fights. Who jumping out is probably what almost saves Ace of Transit's life. Johnny and Moswe immediately don't give the team room to breathe. Who is going to drop immediately here. However, Moswe takes really heavy damage. This has taken long enough that Leon has been able to make it back to point. And so Leon's going to make very quick work of Moswe. However, Johnny is already laying shots into that LMG. taking him out. This is why this LMG is so important, because even taking that LMG out doesn't mean you win the fight, because it's almost like a bomb that explodes in your hands, right? You can get rid of the problem, but you're still going to suffer a little bit of blowback, just like Johnny did, which is going to allow Jail to take a very aggressive fight here and try to challenge Johnny. Unfortunately, Irrational and Mosby are already on their way. That was just a movement diff. They got back fast enough, maybe a little bit of a spawn diff, allowing Quack Pack to retake this point and actually win what is probably the first real fight here on Sandstorm A. It's Who and Trans are going to be pushing in as a healthy 2 against a weak 3. Mosby's going to jump on these boxes and try to damage Who. However, because It's Who was able to really aggressively position himself right here on site, it allows Johnny and Mosby to completely turn their backs to the real threat that's coming in, which is Ace in Transit and Leon. The backs are facing the bullets that are absolutely pushing into the back of their skulls. And because It's Who aggressively ran in, he drew aggro, he drew attention, which allows Ace in Transit and Who to clean up those 3 kills. Latch is going to come in for damage control. However, he's only able to find a very low health Who and die in the process for a full team wipe on the hand of Wasp. Wasp now leading by a little bit over 100 points here. 150 to be exact, are going to try and set up for this next kill. Ace in Transit gets some very valuable information up here on market walls. He's going to spot that Johnny and Mosby are going to be coming backyard, right? Knowing that Johnny and Mosby are backyard is enough information to tell Wasp to know that the other members of Quack Pack are more than likely going to be coming from ramp. Here we see Logic pushing in right here from ramp, and just around the corner is Irrational. You can see his name right here, going to be pushing in from ramp 2. So we're going to see a 2-2 push. Ace and Chance are already starting this. Jailed is getting ready to jump peek this site. He's going to drop, land a couple of early shots, but that's that revolver from Muscore that we talked about earlier, right? Logic doesn't have to be the top fragger here. He can simply just throw the passes for someone else to score them. Irrational taking away that kill with the assist with Logic. Ace in Transit, knowing that the next 2 pushes are going to be, knowing that there's going to be pushes from backyard, is going to try and set himself up here. Leon and Who have to respond to this push from ramp. Irrational and Logic will swing around. Irrational does some early damage that Logic is going to pick that kill up from. Ace in Transit and Who are both preoccupied trying to defend a one-man push at the moment from backyard, which is going to allow Logic some free shots. However, Ace in Transit, with a very quick response, flicks onto him. That's just a mechanical diff right there, is what's going to keep him this game. However, Johnny and Mosby push in. They're both pretty healthy. Logic and Irrational did so much damage already, and that's going to be the last fight here on Sandstorm A. All of that for a 100-point diff. This is what I mean when I say Sandstorm A doesn't really matter, right? Sure, Wasp is 100 points ahead, right? And they are the team that's winning right now. However, it's 100 points, right? It's 100 points, and you're approaching 2 of the most defensively oriented sites in the future, and into Sandstorm B, into Sandstorm C, where you're going to be getting sometimes triple that amount of points in the exact same amount of time. Sandstorm A isn't the most important. What is important, though, is that if you can see right here up in this top left corner, the KPL logo is kind of blocking it at the moment. But Wasp is already set up on B, right? This is a great position to be in if you're winning, right? If you're winning, the one thing that you want to do is make sure that you have that first touch. Having that first touch is what's going to extend that momentum, keep up your pace. If you allow the enemy team to have first touch, you allow them to defend first, you allow them to dictate the pace, and potentially you're losing out on a lot of points. Wasp having first touch on B is big. 100 points is 3 ticks of point on double walls. Exactly. Literally, 100 points is absolutely no time, right? You get that in, what is that, 4.5 seconds? It's nothing, right? A whole minute of work for 4.5 seconds of objective, right? B is where it really starts to matter. And so we're going to see Elbow switch over here. And we already see these 2 teams set up their defense for this coming point, right? The 2 classes that you're going to trust the most to take long-range threats, your FAMAS and AK, are going to be looking over long here, while your SMG and LMG, the 2 classes that do the least amount of damage, are going to try and control short. You could even have your LMG maybe TDM a little bit, maybe take a little bit of a forward position to see if you can't set up a crossfire. do a little bit of a distraction. However, stacking his 4 on B is never a bad thing. Irrational, realizing that he has to do a little bit of disruption, is going to start setting himself up right here by tunnel exit early. He's simply going to wait for his team, going to try and get an early advantage. He sees Logic and Johnny are going to be pushing around right now, which is going to allow Logic to jump peek. He's got the information from Johnny already. And so as we see right now, it's going to be a very big 3-man distraction from Long as Masui tries to swing around and cause a threat down short. However, he was caught out. Masui dying here is pretty bad. The whole idea behind a 3-1 push is to cause enough of a threat where you're pushing from 3 to allow your person pushing from 1 to successfully flank and pick up kills, right? You obviously cannot ignore 3 people aiming their barrels down your throat. However, if your person on the flank doesn't get any value, it's putting your team at 3 at a significant disadvantage. Because if your flanker is just going to die, why not have just pushed his 4 anyway, right? I digress. Irrational, Johnny, and Logic are going to try and salvage as much of this as they can. However, it's the Who, Leon, Jailed show. They're going to be finding kill after kill. However, Logic, absolutely massive. You literally cannot let Logic free or loose for any longer than 1 second. Because if you do not kill Logic, if you let him run rampant on your team, he will absolutely wipe the floor with you. Let's watch that one more time because Logic highlights are too fun to not watch. Logic swings around. He's going to peek. He's going to find a very weak Who, find the very weak Jailed, and then finish off the LMG, the one-man show. Couldn't have done it without his team. Irrational and Johnny doing a lot of chip damage to allow Logic to have those one-shots. But without Logic cleaning those up, this might be a completely different game altogether. This push is very significant in the grand scheme of this game. Yeah, an absolute wash by Logic. Logic going to set himself overlooking both the sites. They're still trying to figure out where they're going. Who is going to be the first person to appear? He's going to be pushing in, and so all the focus goes towards short. A 2-man push, all the focus goes towards short, but, which would normally be a bad thing, right? Because now you're going to leave Jailed and Ace in Transit very nice sight lines. But, what do you notice? Where are all the members of Quack Pack? What are they doing right now? Any ideas? Who sees the line here? In the corner, exactly. They're using cover. Look at the positioning of each of these players and look how much they are denying any value from Long right now, right? Masui has his side right up to this box, challenging Leon and Who, right? Johnny has the high ground with his side against the box. Logic and Irrational right here in the corner. Any value that Jailed and Ace would be able to take from a long range, from a safe range, most importantly, is automatically denied because Quack Pack is able to challenge one half of this fight and deny the other half. This is going to force Jailed and Ace in Transit to extend off of what is very safe positioning over here by this box and at the end of tunnel into what is relatively dangerous positioning over here towards the entrance of B. They're going to be forced to push in. Masui's going to be the first one who dropped because he got all the focus from Leon and Who. However, it's a ton of damage going on by this side. Logic is going to start to try and get some area and some damage over there by Long because he realizes the threat is pushing in right now, so they do need to respond to this. However, Johnny is going to try and take out these threats. He is going to die in the process. However, all the threats on that left side are dead, right? So this whole idea of pushing next to the boxes is working. They were able to take out half of that. However, because Jailed was able to move in so quickly and so efficiently, they were able to take full advantage of them being stacked in one place and get a whole lot of piercing damage in, taking him out quickly. It's Irrational against the world. He's going to try and get the one burst on Jailed. If he was able to do that, maybe it's a completely different game. Unfortunately, the SMG and the AK are too strong of a core. You can't ignore that. Hey, Cashy, thanks for the follow, homie. Nice to see you. And Wasp gets onto the point. Fortunately, they get the near spawn, right? This is huge. They could have very well have spawned over here by D. They could have spawned by Cubby, and then this next push is absolutely... their next defense is absolutely dead. But fortunately, they do get the B spawn. We have 30 seconds left. Wasp has still maintained that 100-point lead that they carried over from B. And right now, they're just looking to pressure. They see Mosby push in early. They're going to punish him a little bit. They're going to force Mosby to hide behind these double boxes. This is significant because forcing Mosby to be here is forcing him to become inactive. And so you're essentially making the other team start off with a 3v4, right? Mosby staying behind these boxes waiting for his team. He can't contribute. He can't find chip damage. He's essentially pinned down. However, where is everyone looking on Wasp? Everyone is looking at Mosby right now. No one is going to be looking at Johnny as soon as he rounds this corner and is going to start causing absolute havoc on this site right now. Irrational peeks over, catches Jailed and Leon's attention. It's Who and Ace against the world. Johnny's already killed Ace with Logic's help. He's going to lose his life for it, though. Logic now swinging around. Mosby and Irrational still pinned down, but still have the attention of Jailed and Leon. Who is immediately going to try and turn because they are starting to get fired upon. Irrational going for a jump peek right here. Is going to try and lay some damage down, but is going to get killed by Jailed, right? That's the weakness of trying to put yourself in this corner right here. You can get out-rotated by defenders on point, as we just saw from Jailed. However, it's the fucking devil. He's here. He has arrived. Logic has come, and he is here to reclaim the site yet again, coming from the back. Whenever you're taking these fights against Quackpack, you cannot let Logic go unchecked, right? Immediately, alarm bells have to go off in your head if you're Wasp, and what you see is Mosby, Johnny, and Irrational on your screen, but you haven't seen Logic yet. If you've already taken 2 casualties before you even see Logic, you're already in a bad place. Logic's just too much of a threat to leave behind. Logic picks up the quick body shot headshot to retake this point. Very fortunate spawn yet again. They could have very well spawned Cubby and been in a terrible position. Very fortunate spawn. Now they're stacking. The game is officially pretty much even again. Leon and Who are going to be jumping out over there by short. Ace in Transit's going to try and form a bit of a crossfire down by long, but he realizes that he's ahead of his teammate Jailed. This is bad. What is bad specifically about this position? Does anyone know? Can anyone take a guess? What's the issue with this positioning about how this fight is going so far by Wasp? Any guessers in chat? Any Peepo Gers in chat? Ace is not peeking. It's a 4v2. Bingo. That's what I wanted. Exactly on the money. Because Ace was ahead of Jailed, and he's going to want to peek with Jailed because that's a huge core of their damage, right? He has essentially just left Leon and Who behind, leaving it to a complete 4v2 for the first 2 seconds of this fight, which doesn't sound like a whole lot of time. However, when you consider that the time to kill for almost every single gun in this game is less than a third of a second, it becomes significantly a significant problem, right? And just like that, Leon's going to drop early, right? They are able to get the response, taking out Johnny and Irrational, Who finding that fight, doing exceptionally well for the 2v4 that they were faced in. But it's only now that Jailed turns that corner, right? Ace had to turn around to challenge because he can't leave his team pushing it in his 2. But it's only now that Jailed turns around. Mosby's pinned down. He's able to find 1 kill before being taken out. But now you have a very healthy... Oh, no, you have a weak Logic in the corner. Jailed's going to peek around. It was very fortunate that 2v4 went their way, as it could have gone completely opposite because of a little bit of a peeking issue. Right? The only reason that they were able to get that is because Who really clutched up with that kill on Irrational. That early kill on Irrational and that early kill on Johnny Durr is huge, right? They could have very well have just gone away with one of those kills and that push would have fallen apart. The only reason this push succeeded is because Who and Ace stepped up, found eliminations where it counted, right? Absolutely massive. Absolutely massive. And Who did the damage on Logic as well. Who did so much work that fight. So much work that fight. Absolutely insane. For what was a very Monka-esque positioning by Wasp, they were able to turn it around, fortunately. Just off of the raw mechanical ability that these players have. 5 seconds remain. We are going to see... Oh, Elbow switching the camera a lot. We are going to see Quackpack taking this first take on C here. And this is the first touch that matters. If it were up to me, I would have told Wasp to leave B an hour ago. I think the last 7 seconds of B aren't even worth having. Because the first 7 seconds of C are where it really starts to matter. Having first touch on C is absolutely critical for your success on Sandstorm. If you're able to have the first defense, you might be able to just win the game because defense is just that strong, right? The wall sight is huge. The spawning on the site is huge. The sight lines that you're able to bring on C are huge. The fact that Sandstorm D is literally useless if you're behind is huge for C, right? So, Quackpack gets there early. They're going to secure the spawn for their team. Everyone's stacked onto site. And so now this is really up to Wasp. They have to make something of these next two pushes, right? They have a 200-point lead, which means if they fail the first push, they'll be behind, but not by much, enough that they'll be able to come back from it. However, these first two pushes have to go well, and Ace in Transit's already low from the previous fight. And so it's a weakened Wasp team versus a very full health, very defensively oriented Quackpack team. The only way to win is to bait your LMG. That's a huge, I mean, we talked about this before, right? The whole idea behind Wasp's comp right now is to have that LMG to stay brawling, right? They have a very brawly comp. They want to get in there. They want to take fast fights. They want the fights to last as long as possible. They want people to bait, to set up crossfires. Whereas Quackpack wants to take very decisive fights. They have that. The only difference, they have that revolver, which is huge burst damage. They want to get kills quickly. And so Wasp is trying to deny that with the LMG. Quackpack is trying to get that with the revolver. And so it's like the battle between these two comps here. Ace in Transit is going to go over by backyard. They're going to wait till Ace in Transit gets full health and then peek. It is a full 4-man peek from main. Johnny Durr gets the first kill, but it is going to be a trade. Leon finds the double with the LMG, but Maswi and Logic sitting in that corner, automatically setting up that crossfire. It's too strong. It's too powerful. Sandstorm is too much of a problem. It is going to be Itsu against the world. Now, granted, the world's pretty weak right now. Itsu's going to jump over. He's going to find one kill, and he finds the double. Itsu is a fucking animal. There's nothing more to say. Itsu is not human. He is actually just a devil from underground come up to wreak havoc against the world. You simply cannot beat the FAMAS that is Itsu. Holy crap. It's insane. There was no reason Wasp should have succeeded there. Quackpad had the first kill. Maswi and Logic pick up the rest. It's a 2v1 against Logic and Maswi. But Itsu clutches it up because he's an absolute beast. Unfortunately, they don't get the spawn. Which is pretty bad if you're defending C, right? The rest of the members of Quackpack spawn over by D. And so what we're going to see here is that this next fight is going to take place right here outside of sight. Quackpack is going to try and get back as soon as possible, but they do realize that if they try to do that, they're going to be taking a fight in a position that's not to their favor, right? They're going to have to take a fight over here outside of elbow, where if you want to take this fight, you have to make a 90-degree flick to even see the enemy team. So Quackpack try to get ahead of this fight, try to keep their pace up, try to keep the momentum up. 2/3 of the spawning members of Quackpack are going to be pushing from Market. One of the Quackpack members gets spawned over by B. They're going to be pushing from behind. Maswi's going to take this fight with Leon. Find him, way over by B. Way over where no one is, right? And get caught out, unfortunately. That's just the luck of the draw. And this is where this had to be a call by Maswi. Maswi is the IGL of this team. Whoever called this play is a genius. Not pushing in, because it's very easy to just push from elbow, go back to site as fast as possible, right? It's so easy to fall into this sort of the regular clock, what you normally do on Sandstorm. But pushing from Market to take a fight in main is a stroke of genius. I'll catch you later, Yassine. Thanks for sticking around. Right? Now Irrational and Johnny are behind Jailed, immediately taking him out. There's only 2 people left on site, right? It is just Ace in Transit and Ace, who spawned onto site. Itsu, who has been on the site this entire time. And now they are facing a full 4 team of Quackpack who has just surgically taken out every member of their team. They push into the site. Ace dies. It is just Itsu against the world right now. Irrational swings. Logic finds the kill. Surgical. This play, whoever called this play in Market, is a genius. That play and market is what won Quack Pack this site right here. Because they were able to take out Jailed, and even if Masui didn't get back spawn towards B, Leon would have been caught out too, right? Because this sightline is really bad for Leon and Jailed as they're pushing in through main, and really good for Johnny and Irrational. They would have both been caught out. It just so happens that Masui found Leon over by B. Just coincidence. This fight would have gone their way either way. Absolutely genius play by Quack Pack. There's nothing more you could do than just to drop your jaw and marvel in awe of the way that they approach that from a positional point of view, right? Absolutely insane game sense to and just the wherewithal to make that call, right? It's you can tell how amazed I am. It just astounds me how, even in the moment, about how fast-paced losing that first push has to be a little bit demoralizing, and then not just going back into your regular rotation of things, right? Not pushing through elbow, pushing for market, knowing you're going to catch them out. Absolutely genius. Amazing. They don't have too much time to breathe, though. Wasp is back, and it's going to be Ace in transit doing what he does best as an SMG with that deceptively tanky class of his, swinging around and going to start to draw some aggro. Logic, one of the biggest threats on this team from a damage point of view, right? Their entire comp depends on their damage, right? Is already distracted by Ace. He needs to take him out. However, because Ace was able to distract Logic, he dies for it, but Jailed is able to take out the revolver. Now all that's left is the SMG, the FAMAS, and the AK. That is just 3/4 of a comp. There's not really a whole lot of finishing power besides Irrational, so now a lot of the brunt of the defense has to come from Irrational. Jailed is going to push on in, find a second kill on Irrational. 2 massive kills by Jailed, finding both of their burst classes, right? Now all that's left is an SMG and an AK, but there's no kill finishers, right? There's a lot of consistent damage from those 2 classes, but the whole draw to the comp that Quack Pack brings is from those finishers from the FAMAS and Rev, and now those are both gone. It's really up to Masui to try and clutch this up. It's the Leon versus Masui 1v1. Leon doesn't have the damage. Masui's full health. Sandstorm C is an absolute beast to push into. What were the devs thinking, making a site so strong? Honestly, and then they spawn back on site. What more could you want? Look how much work Jailed does for this fight to not go Wasp's way. It's insane. Jailed does so much work here with Ace's help for that push not to go Wasp's way, and it literally is just because Sandstorm C is so strong. They won this because this corner that Masui is hiding in is just broken because no one can shoot him from there, and so he's able to wait and then take the fight when it comes to him, right? He's able to set up that crossfire on Jailed. He's able to set up that crossfire on Leon, and it's over. And now his team spawns on him. And now all 4 members of Quack Pack are back in that fight that you spent so much resources, 10 seconds of time, right? That's huge. 10 seconds of time. That's what, 80? That's like 240 points. Gone. For them just to be right back onto point. Sandstorm C is brutal. It's such a brutal point to push into. And for the first time this game, Quack Pack is starting to build the lead. Masui celebrating a little bit. Maybe shooting his partner Logic for not finding that kill earlier. Who knows? Maybe it's toxic in the bike. Who's to say? Absolutely brilliant by Masui. Masui is definitely one of the most is a very talented IGL in that OCE scene. And the way that they're able to force these fights is incredibly smart. They're going to try this exact same strategy with Ace in transit, jumping on in, trying to draw in a sight line. It's who is going to find that first kill on a distracted Irrational, chain that into a kill on Johnny. Johnny trades Jailed's life for it. It's a very healthy SMG versus a very healthy LMG, which would allow for a very long fight. However, that's not a whole lot of damage. And so they have to use movement to their advantage. Ace in transit and Leon work very well together to remove players off of point together. Because if they split their attention, the attack probably doesn't go their way. They just don't have the damage for it. They're immediately going to turn on Masui. And Masui almost clutches. It's insane. The fact that Masui almost clutches that is insane. Sandstorm C is so brutal. He almost clutches that. And unfortunately, Wasp doesn't get the respawn. The reason they don't get the respawn is because Maswi stayed alive for long enough to sort of for the game to realize that this might be a dangerous spawn, so it forces him over by D, right? Maswi staying alive for that long is important. I digress. Unfortunately, Wasp doesn't get this spawn in these last 10 seconds, which does hurt them in the end game of the as we're going to see as the result of this turns out. It's a bit unfortunate for them, but oh well. Itsu in jail, pushing in from elbow, right? We talked about this, how Quackpack could have done this, how well Quackpack pushing through market succeeded for him, and this is why the push from market was so smart. Because if you push in from elbow, now you're fighting here in no man's land. With you have to make a 90-degree turn to even see the team. The enemy team has a direct sightline onto you. You have to react. They get to be proactive. Itsu dies immediately. Jail dies immediately. That's why pushing from elbow is so risky. It's so easy to do it because it's so fast to get back to sight. And when you're Wasp and you're down like that, it's so easy to run back to get those to get to the objective as fast as humanly possible. However, it doesn't go their way. Logic and Irrational swing around. Leon is going to take out Johnny. Ace finds Irrational. Leon finds Logic. They are able to win their ones. However, the win condition has shifted for Quackpack. It's 3 seconds left in C. They don't need to have a full hold. They don't need to retake, right? The win condition has shifted. Now that we're going to Sandstorm D with a 200-point lead, the win condition has shifted from stack on point to win the game to simply find eliminations to deny them the ability to even come back. And there is no point in the game. There is no single objective in this entire game that is better at that one strategy than Sandstorm D. Maswi takes out Ace in transit. Maswi could have easily have gone D at this point, but like I said, Quackpack, they're not looking for a retake here. They don't care about the last few seconds of C. Taking off Ace in transit just prevents 20 more points from Wasp, right? And that's all that Quackpack needs. Normally, this size of lead wouldn't be that significant in any other map, but because Sandstorm D is so hard to mount a comeback on, it's very significant here. Leon alone at point. Maswi going to try and force him out. Maswi trying to find this kill would have delayed the push from Wasp a little bit further. Him dying, though, isn't the most significant. Deaths by Quackpack don't matter as much. What really matters is Wasp having full hold on D. So let's pay attention to see if that happens here. Leon going to be pushing on the site. Everyone from Wasp was really low spawning. They spot Ace down long. Logic definitely saw that. They're calling that out to their team. Maswi's going to redirect his attention towards Log because of that. Leon and Who are going to be pushing in from market. Leon jumps around. Itsu is going to find that first kill on Maswi. But first, let's take a look at the positioning here on D. I forgot to bring this up. Yeah, absolute rat moment. We talked about this before we started talking about this game. But the reason why Sandstorm D is so strong is because if you're winning, you get to do some very devious things. Quackpack, with a 200-point lead, decides for this first push that they want to stack a little bit. But look where, who is that? Irrational. Look where Irrational's holding. He's holding back sight. You're winning. You don't need to have a full 4-man hold on Sandstorm D. You get to hang back, right? You get to find these eliminations. This position is insane, right? Anyone who's played competitive knows the power that this position has. You have a free sightline of market with cover. You have a free sightline of backyard with relative cover. You can dictate if someone wants to challenge you from long, not only do they have to make it all the way over here, being shot at the entire time from point, but then they have to make a 90-degree turn to meet you, whereas you're already looking that direction. If you want to challenge long, you can peek it left, right with cover. This position is very strong, and if you're winning the game, this is where you always want to have at least one person be. Ideally, you want to have your burst classes here. And this is what we're seeing, right? Irrational on the Famas here. You could have easily had Logic here as well, right? Having a burst class here is incredibly effective because you want to keep those people alive to get assists or to get cleanup eliminations. Having your consistent damage here is important because they're able to shell out that consistent damage, start to get that chip in. So when your burst classes are hanging back here, they're able to follow up on that way easier. Another place that you could have seen Quackpack stay is over here behind tree. I'm pretty sure we're going to be seeing that here shortly. But Leon and Who are going to be pushing in from market right here. Who is going to find a very quick one burst on Maswi. Huge kill for Wasp. That almost has to be a 1 burst for this to go successfully. Johnny, like I said, behind that tree, setting up a crossfire. Now, if you're Wasp, not only do you have to aim on, not only are you getting shot from sight, you're getting shot from tree, and you're getting shot from backside, right? 3 different angles that you have to respond to, and you can only respond to 1 at a time. It's incredibly dangerous. Logic, with the help of Irrational, is going to find the kill on Itu. Leon's going to swing around. Johnny is going to have a very free sightline on anyone who pushes from long, finding Ace in transit. He's going to immediately direct his attention to the LMG. That's the biggest threat here. The AK does a whole lot of damage, but if this LMG sticks around for too long, you're going to get wingmanned. Leon dies by Johnny's hands. The power of sitting tree. Now Jailed has to choose which person he wants to shoot that's off-site. Jailed goes for Irrational, but he's weak and allows Johnny to get a couple quick shots in, but misses a couple of crucial ones. Jailed clutches up with a double kill. Jailed has been huge this entire map to get this first flip for Wasp. 3/4 of their team responds onto point. They're trying to mount a comeback. They're going to have to stack. Who finally makes it back to point, but you can't stack as 4 on this point. If you want to hold this, if you want to mount a comeback, you cannot 4 stack, right? You can try, but the positioning on site is too bad, right? There's not enough cover. You're completely exposed, and so you have to force someone to step off of point. They decide to have 3 swing off, which you have to if you want to have a chance of winning this fight, right? But these 3 not being on point means you're only getting 10 points every second and a half, right? And you're still down by over 100 points, which means you need to win this fight. Mosby just harassing Jailed, does get punished. Johnny swings around, punishes Jailed. That's a trade kill, but trading always benefits the winning team. Logic with a massive kill on who? You might have, if you blinked, you might have missed it. Mosby and Johnny doing so much to focus the sight lane down long. Mosby does get traded out. Johnny finding Jailed. Logic with the juiciest sight line of his life on who? Finds the headshot. A absolutely massive kill. Now, as Quack Pack, you have 3 threats against a very weak LMG and a full health SMG. SMG facing down the barrel of a FAMAS and a revolver drops as quickly as you would expect it. Johnny's going to swing around. Leon has to respond to this threat that's coming from Market, while Johnny is just harassing bullets, staying a threat. That defense doesn't go their way. That fight had to go Wasp's way. If you're going to jump off of point when you're down like that as Wasp, you have to win those fights or you lose the objective that you would have had, right? It's a gamble, but if it's the gamble that Wasp took, it could have worked out in their favor. Unfortunately, it didn't, because Logic and Irrational are absolute beasts of men and found so many eliminations. And Quack Pack gets the spawn. Growing their lead, 30 seconds are left. Quack Pack still up by 200 points. Mosby's going to head off site. Irrational, now that Quack Pack has 40 seconds off of the 40 seconds have been burned off of Sandstorm D. They're up by 200 points. They have faith in themselves that they're going to be able to hold this. Irrational gets to TDM. This is a right that Quack Pack has earned here. You might say this is scummy, but this is an active defense right now. Irrational goes out, finds a kill on who? Because like I said, their win condition, it's not to hold the site, it's just to prevent Wasp from having people on the site. Now you've taken off one of the biggest damage threats off of Wasp before they can even make it to site. Jailed is going to peek in as 1 and die just as quickly as he peeked. Leon's going to peek in as 1 and die just as quickly as he peeked. Ace flies in and dies just as quickly as he peeked. And at this point, you have to say that the game is over. Sandstorm is one of the most punishing maps in this entire game. If you are losing by even the smallest of margins after Sandstorm C, the game's over. Simply put, Quack Pack was up by 200 points. 200 points is nothing. Let's do the math, right? 200 points is absolutely nothing. That is just all 4 people stacking onto site for 6 ticks, right? That's 9 seconds. That's 10 seconds of objective time. But in Sandstorm, it matters because Sandstorm D is that bad. It's so bad to get a lead on, right? If you're ahead, it's incredible to hold. But if you're behind, you have to work so much harder to get even close to mounting a comeback. It's so punishing. Ace in Transit and Jailed, with the help of Leon, are able to clean up that site. They're going to try and stack. They're going to stack us forward. They need these objective points. Jailed is able to find Moswe. 3 seconds are left. I don't even know if this is mathematically possible. But right now, all Quack Pack has to do is kill members off of the point. The game was over when Irrational shot that. The game was over when Quack Pack won that push. Quack Pack wins Sandstorm here. They go on to move onto the KPL Grand Finals to rematch Vivid Obsidian again. Quack Pack played Vivid Obsidian in the Grand Finals last week and put up a really great fight but lost. Quack Pack would end up facing Vivid Obsidian again. This finals put up a very good fight, a very competitive lumber way at the end. Vivid Obsidian did end up winning KPL Week 6, but I just thought this match in particular between Wasp and Quack Pack was I found was a very good learning moment to learn just exactly how important it is to really hold B and C, right? One lost push on C is all it takes for a team to start running away on Sandstorm, right? It's all it takes for you to win this game is that one push way back here where Logic and Johnny swing over, and then to challenge this push, they try to push in from market. This is the push that very well decided the game, right? They were behind. Quack Pack was behind until this entire point. But because they won the push right before this, it meant nothing. It's tough, but that's how punishing this game can be. I like talking about it. I hope you guys like listening to it. I'm going to be turning this into a YouTube video as well.